This video get me comparing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. If you look at the highest score for each franchise, the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie is a 95%. The first Texas Chainsaw Massacre is an 84%. It's the only one of those movies that's actually fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, whereas of Nightmare on Elm Street, the most recent film that was released, does actually have a certified fresh score of 79%. When you look at lowest score for each franchise, in the case of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the third movie only has a 13%. When you look at Nightmare on Elm Street, the sixth movie only has a 23%. Nightmare on Elm Street wins here. Then when you look at average score, Nightmare on Elm Street only has an average of 56. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is an average of 32. And then when you look at gap between lowest and highest score, in the case of Nightmare on Elm Street, you have a gap of 72. With Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you have a gap of 69. So Nightmare on Elm's actually the lower gap does go to Texas Chainsaw Massacres. It wins this round, but Nightmare on Elm Street won the first 3 rounds, so it's going to win no matter what. But let's look at my personal opinion now. To be clear, I haven't actually seen any of these movies. I've heard things about them, watched videos talking about them. It feels to me like Nightmare on Elm Street is a bit more interesting. It stands out a little bit more because of this idea of people being killed in dreams. That's a good way to do a little bit of a different spin on the slasher genre. So I think Nightmare on Elm Street stands out a little bit more, whereas Texas Chainsaw Massacre feels a bit more generic to me. More like, yeah, it's another one of these movies. Yeah, it's another slasher. So doesn't stand out as much, not quite as interesting. Whereas there's something that's more distinct about Nightmare on Elm Street. I feel like more people are talking about these movies. Have had more of an impact. They've left more of a mark than Texas Chainsaw Massacre has had. I know there are people out there certainly that enjoy those movies, but it feels to me like not as many people enjoy them. More people like Nightmare on Elm Street. Obviously, inherently, it's not going to be for everybody, but feels like there's a bigger, anyway, audience or Nightmare on Elm Street rather than Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's the vibe that I've gotten. So I would definitely say that Nightmare on Elm Street is the superior franchise. They'll wrap things up for this one.